What is going on, everyone? We are here for the Monday market breakdown. We essentially have a very nice setup on the way. Just requires a little bit more patience and determination, but it's going to come through. So what we're currently seeing on the DXY, which we go on to the daily, we can currently see that on the DXY we have been correcting to the upside. It's not really right now enough for me to say that, you know, this short play is going to be big, but more so I think there's a potential for this to correctively sort of squeeze lower or aggressively just kind of drop off a little bit before we go higher. So there's a few scenarios. However, we are seeing across US related pairs that we are seeing a short play on the table, so kind of just evaluating this a little bit lower. We're just kind of looking for sort of any sort of entry on the table. Now it does look like the DXY is shaping up for a sort of expanding flag to the downside, so we could be seeing, you know, a simple movement to the high and then kind of just drop off to kind of reach this low and then kind of potentially just kind of drop off even further, which I'm hoping is really more so the play. We could probably take a flag to pole sort of situation and basically see it from there to there, and then essentially maybe this kind of pulls its way back up, we start to correct, and then just kind of have one little spike up, drop, who knows. I'm kind of looking for that corrective sort of squeeze lower, so it kind of gives me that indication that we could potentially have this 1, 2, 3 squeeze up to this override. However, it's not necessary, and I'm not going to stick to this bias. It's just something that I'll keep on the charts just because it kind of references what I'm looking for. So that's basically it for the DXY for me. The next one I'm looking at is onto my watch list, which is USD CAD. Kind of works in line with the DXY forecast, but what we have here on USD CAD is we have a near miss to the low. Even though we have had a tap into it, we correctively started squeezing and we've kind of got a near miss to it now. Now, this can still push up further and make it to this high before we fill this. However, looking at how price action is moving right now, we can see that we are doing something very similar to what we're seeing on the DXY. Now, it's possible that this can still just kind of drop off and then create something later, but it's possible that this can kind of squeeze its way to the top, create that expanding similar to the DXY, and they settle off together, and we see that very nice short play to the low. So this would be a nice little entry area here to get involved, but it requires a bit of patience. I think, you know, at the end of the day, if this shapes up, this will be a very nice trade. And what's really nice about it is we are getting that corrective middle section that is a little bit more clear on the 15, so we can see that, you know, this bit of corrective price is now just squeezed. We've tapped into the bottom of this, and it looks like we could potentially just push up here. Would I take a long position? Absolutely not, just because we are looking for the downside and there's so much room to go short. It's more than preferable to actually wait for the short play. Could there be something else that we're missing? Absolutely. This could form into something a little bit larger before we drop off, so we have to always bear in mind that, you know, at the end of the day, patterns can evolve, get a little bit more complex, and change. So we don't want to just stick to a bias and say, you know, that's that. But at the end of the day, what's probable and what's possible? This is more than probable because we are pushing from that override point and now we're creating this pattern. What's possible is we can just drop off and then create something later. So we have to accept those before we even enter the trade, but that's basically what I'm looking at for USD CAD. The next one I'm looking at is Euro New Zealand. Euro New Zealand is looking very nice in my opinion. I think right now we are meeting with that very nice inflection zone. We just have to be a little bit extra patient here, just because this can shape up to be very nice. I think reading between the lines now, we have to evolve ever so much and kind of just see that this is a corrective squeeze for a middle section for this to potentially push up, tap into a third touch and then push down. So what I will be waiting for is just a push up and a push back down and then kind of for the go. Even though that the Sunday market breakdown was somewhat looking for this, just because of how much it corrected and where it corrected to, I think now it's become a little bit more parallel and more apparent that this is going to be going for the 1, 2, 3. So that's basically the position that I'll be looking at for that. The push down on the flag is probably a lot more preferable than taking a risk entry, because this can extend and just keep pushing up further and further, and you don't want to be caught up in that price action for it to move to inflection point over here, inflection point over there. It's very much possible. Bear that in mind. Remember, at the end of the day, this doesn't have to come down here or here. It can just continue going, tap into this and then come down. So there's loads of probabilities and possibilities on the table right now, but just be extra patient and just understand that this is right now looking fantastic, and what's actually so important is actually being extra patient and waiting for it to tap in up and push down, create the flag, and let's go. Next one I'm looking at is Australian New Zealand dollar. The Australian New Zealand dollar has extended ever so much, to be honest, because we were looking at this extension 1, 2, 3, and then the pattern within a pattern to this override. Nice little scoop, near miss. It's still possible for this to happen. We just need that significant push down. I've set an alert here, as you can see on the override, for when the override is tapped into. I'll look for some entries below that. But at the moment, this extension can come all the way up to this point here. So, bear in mind that even though we have so much on the table, the larger picture has, at the same time, maybe it has something even bigger for us to be looking at. So there is quite a significant push from here, which you'll be able to see on the weekly, that we kind of just tapped into this and we significantly just started pushing away aggressively. So we don't have to come down anytime soon. We can actually reach this point up here, but I would just keep my eye on this because there's definitely some massive potential, and then there is some late news coming out early morning UK time. So that could also catalyze some volatility to the downside. So I would also, if we see this extending even further, then we could just keep an eye on that and just see how this volatility plays early in the morning. But it's really a case of if you're willing to stay up or if you just want to wait till the next day. The next one I'll be looking at is Australian Japanese yen. It's not yet ready. I think it's still in line with our Sunday market breakdown forecast with a push up, a flag, and a push up. Just waiting for this to kind of extend, break above here, and then kind of make its way back down. It's not going to be the easiest trade. It's going to be quite messy and quite, up and down, but who knows? It could turn out to be a phenomenal entry. We might even just push up and then push down aggressively and create flag and go. That's kind of what I'm more banking on, but we can extend and then understand we can go to the override too as well. So it's not really on my highest priority, but it's there. GBP yen, one that I think is going to be absolutely phenomenal when it does shape up. It just needs a bit more time. Right now, what I'm seeing over here is that we are getting a little bit more corrective, which is completely fine because, in my opinion, that could certainly just kind of paint something a little bit more. We could be seeing something like this, where we essentially have another squeeze, and then this becomes the 1, 2, 3. There's so many possibilities right now. I wouldn't just start, jumping on anything, but just keep in mind that loads of possibilities on the table, and then we could get a further more extension over here, which I don't think is extremely likely, but if we do start pushing out here, then I wouldn't cross this off, and then I would look for something like that. But like I said, at the moment we just need to trade what we see and keep it very simple and straightforward. This can become a little bit more messy. It can just do loads of various things, so I would just kind of stay on ball with everything you're doing, and just make sure you're not kind of FOMOing or jumping into something unnecessarily because price might be in a certain area, because that's something that I think a lot of institutions and banks do on purpose, is to leave price sitting in a certain area and then kind of catch people out. So just be very careful with that, and it's something we're seeing on CAD yen now, so we'll jump into that one now. CAD yen, we can basically see that, so if we go to the weekly, we can see that we had this significant push from this high up here. It wasn't the easiest trade to catch because you would have had to read between the lines, but it was more than parallel. We tapped into the inflection point, we sold off aggressively, very good momentum to the downside. It's giving us that feeling that now we're creating this larger flag over here. What we need to see is that we either get commitment to the downside followed by continuation, or we get a push up, taps into this override, and then we get some sort of push down from there. So at the moment, it was looking very good for a head and shoulders. So left shoulder, right shoulder. There was a correction right here as well, which I know a few people was able to get involved in. It wasn't one that I would have opted into personally, but there was definitely a possibility of a trade there. And yeah, right now it's looking a little bit more corrective, and I think it's becoming a little bit more obvious that this isn't the most progressive price action, and this can definitely just turn around and make its way back up here. So I would definitely keep that in mind, that there's so much on the table right now that I wouldn't even you know, FOMO about it. Don't even know how to use this tool, but anyway, just bear that in mind, that, you know, this can still come to the upside, but if it does come to the downside, it's more than better to be patient and wait for confirmation. Now moving on to the wildcards, we have New Zealand yen. New Zealand yen is looking phenomenal. I think New Zealand yen has so much potential for upside movement. I think this is one that I may possibly opt in for a long when it does shape up, but at the moment I'm not going to entertain a falling knife. We did have that sort of break below this price, which is very nice at the moment. Without a 1 hour close, we can't know for certain, but for sure this is looking like, you know, we could get that push down even more. And then if we do push down, tap into something where we can get this sort of parallel sort of 1, 2, 3 to the upside, which basically gives us a phenomenal trade. And I think this sort of impulsive action could be on the table as well. So could start off a little bit corrective and then give us enough room to just kind of jump in for that long run. So bear that in mind. I think it's going to be a very phenomenal play for New Zealand yen. It's going to shape up in line with GBP yen, CAD yen, and so forth. So really good trade there. I think I'll definitely keep that one on watch. I don't think I'm going to be looking at Aussie New Zealand anytime soon until that's triggered with the alert. And then Euro New Zealand as well needs a bit of time to materialize, so I'm going to wait for it to push up and then push back down. And then bear in mind we can go from here because we have tapped into the mini double top as well, so that is something that you have to bear in mind, but it's not something that I'm willing to do just below that little small inflection area. And then yeah, I think, you know, no brainer for USD CAD. If that plays, that's going to be phenomenal. And yeah, so New Zealand yen, I think New Zealand yen, just keep it patient, keep it smart, let it do its thing, and then when it starts going for the upside, you can get involved on that run. The next one I'll be looking at is USD yen. USD yen, same thing as USD CAD. I'm waiting for that expanding, which is really nice that we're seeing it across the DXY, USD CAD, and we're seeing it across USD yen. So this expanding, if that can play, then I can be looking for an entry somewhere in there. I'll be taking inside of the pattern. Once that actually plays, then I'll be able to take that. Could be 33 pips, could be a little bit less. Even so, it will still be a phenomenal position. I'll be taking it to the first sort of zone down here to fill the gap. So if we can fill this gap, this will be phenomenal and it'll be a really nice run. I'm 110% sure that, you know, we're going to have a lot of scaling opportunity as we see over here, but it could be very aggressively bullish and we may get no opportunities whatsoever. Maybe some very small, very messy correction opportunities. So bear in mind that this could be a phenomenal trade. Just have to be extra patient and wait for it, and when it goes, it goes. So that's basically it for yen. USD Swiss. USD Swiss is quite similar to my USD yen trade, but it has the potential for it to go even further. I don't think it's going to be aggressively moving this way. I think it's going to go correction into correction into correction and continue sort of correcting its way down. However, to position ourselves in these areas is very valuable. I think definitely thinking about an entry in this area is what we need to be doing. I think it's more so, can we sort of make our way back up to here and then drop off, is kind of what I'm banking on, because seeing a lot of head and shoulders across the table, I think, you know, head and shoulders over here wouldn't be too bad as well. But at the same time, if we can get some sort of corrective price there to give me that indication that we could go low, meeting into some sort of zone, I'll be more than happy to get involved in that. Otherwise, I'd leave it. So it's just one that I've always just been looking at for the potential to just get the nice play. And the play would really be to the low of this pattern. I think to the ray line would be asking for too much at this stage, but there's still potentially a 10% on the table there for USD Swiss, so could be a very good position. New Zealand CAD, I think New Zealand CAD needs a bit of time to materialize. Still waiting for that 1, 2, 3. It's going to be a late week trade in my opinion. Could be sooner if we do get some aggression, but at the moment, until we reach this override zone, I'm not really going to entertain anything on this chart. And Euro Australian dollar. I think Euro Australian dollar as well is going to look very nice for the long. I need it to kind of come down to this area, but it is coming aligned. I think if this trickles and gets corrective and then we get pushed down, push back up, or even just kind of tap into this area here, we can give it that flag momentum where we can see that running channel where essentially it's not the most corrective middle section at this point. However, if we can tap into this and then we get immediate rejection, we can certainly see this as a price target where we bounce off this and we go, and this can create a 1, 2, 3, which could most probably break, push up, and then come back down, gravitating to override 2. So it's looking really nice, honestly. It is a very interesting pair to be trading. I think it just needs a little bit more time to materialize. However, it does not have to come down to that point there. We can just move from this point here as well, but I think more so than ever, I would be more so looking at this point than this point because of just the risk that's involved. If I was to take an entry here and get tagged out, then I would have re-entered here anyway, so I may as well just keep my attention over there. That's basically it for my watch list this week. I don't think there's really much that I'm really going to be kind of dabbling with. I think there's more than enough on the table right now for me to actually trade with. If there was a small little tight flag here, it could definitely be a very phenomenal play. So I would keep close eye on this as well. And then, yeah, USD yen, gonna wait for that to come up here. Aussie New Zealand dollar is not looking too bad right now. You know, I think Aussie New Zealand dollar is shaping up really well. And yeah, I think personally, there's some very, very interesting pairs on the table right now. So I think just keep your eyes on the prize. Don't get caught up in any of the sort of nonsense that's going on in the market in terms of like how should I explain it? In terms of like bad price action. So this is phenomenal price action. What we have actually is on the hourly, we have a 1, 2, 3, tapped into the 1, 2, 3. We have a very, very nice bearish candle there. I wish this was live so you guys could actually see it live, but honestly, I just want to keep this on the charts for a minute or two because we're going to see this just drop off quite aggressively, which is very nice. And I think, you know, this sort of price action is one that a lot of people should really just kind of observe a bit better because it can really make a difference for your portfolio. But yeah, even so, keep an eye on Aussie New Zealand dollar. That's going to be a really nice trade for sure. And yeah, Euro New Zealand dollar soon, hopefully, if that drops off, we'll see. And then USD CAD and USD yen. So guys, have a good week. I'm going to catch you in the next video tomorrow. So if you did enjoy the video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and drop a comment below. See you later.